Welcome everyone, the True Smog here, and today I'm bringing you a new video in which I'm going to actually play my Beast Mastery Hunter. I've been getting a lot of comments and requests for me to show some gameplay, exactly how I do it, how my strategies work out in certain areas. So today I'm going to bring you my Beast Mastery Hunter, and I'm going to be going through level 4 of Torghast. As a reminder, I do stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays over on Twitch. Links are going to be down in the description below. As well as, if you do enjoy this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on so you know when the next video does go live. So I'm making this video. I am playing with my guild leader, who is a restoration druid, Rest OK. She also streams over on Twitch. Links to her channel are down in the description below, but very good restoration druid. We do kind of two-man this, and level 4 is very, very interesting. I'll go through kind of my strategies, exactly which ones I'm going to pick, which animal powers that you're looking for, and just kind of how you want to pull these layers. All right, so with that, guys, let's get into it. Level 4 of Torghast. So what I'm going to do is I recorded the gameplay. I'm going to have myself down in the corner. I'm going to be kind of talking over it as we watch together, and then we'll get it from there. All right, so I am going to show you guys put up a picture here, and these are my talents going into Torghast. Not a whole lot changes. Really, the biggest change is at level 15. Normally you would take Animal Companion, but here you're not going to. And then everything else is basically set up for AoE or a Mythic Plus, just because you do have a lot of multiple packs going in there. All right, here we go, loading in here. All right, so right off the bat, you get two choices here. We got Golden Idol and Mallrat Scent Gland. Golden Idol, basically, it's allowing you to see which enemies are carrying plundered anima. I'm not a huge fan of this one, just because I typically go through and try to kill just about everything anyway. Primarily because the Torghast is not timed, right? So you can take your time, you can fight, you can eat in between every single fight if you want to. It just basically takes as long as you want it to take. So it's not timed. So I basically have the mentality, I'm going to clear the entire place anyway. So I really don't care about this one. So that is why I went with Mallrat Scent Gland, which is when your pet is within 10 yards of a Mallrat, your pet will immediately kill the Mallrat, increase your pet's damage. I typically will lean more toward offensive skills than I will, kind of utility or even defensive, primarily because as a Beast Mastery Hunter, the pet is the one who's taking majority of the damage. And so if I have a way to increase my offense, I'm going to take that over my defense every single time, because I can just heal or revive the pet as much as needed. So we did jump right to layer 4. So layer 4, if you guys are not aware, is the newest one. You can go up, I believe, to 6. But you got to start off at layer 4. If you start off at layer 4, you do get credit for all the layers below it. However, it can be a little misleading because it is cumulative. So if you haven't seen already, so you do know that Mallrats are all over this place. And if you do have your pet within 10 yards of one, it'll automatically go over and kill it instantly, and you'll get that big buff, which is really nice. One thing that you're going to want to make sure that you're using on every opportunity with a Beast Mastery Hunter is, with your pet taking so much damage in here, especially, one thing that you'll notice in this, the druid isn't always healing my pet. A lot of times you're just kind of doing supplemental and just trying to keep me alive, because I am doing majority of the healing to the pet. Making sure that you're always hitting min pet every single time it comes off on cooldown. Also, always make sure you're using your Covenant ability in any of your cooldowns. And so you definitely want to make sure that you're taking full advantage of that, unless you're getting ready to fight a boss or something where you want to save your cooldowns for. Just keep using them over and over again. Again, this is not timed. You don't have to pull that boss. You can wait till your cooldowns come off before you pull them. So use it as much as possible. All right, so this was kind of an interesting one. The common was the refilling elixir of life. Well, basically, if you drop below 20%, you get bumped back up to full. And then the green one was the glowing pollen satchel, which is basically Wild Spirit's cooldown is reduced by 15 seconds, which is obviously my Night Fae ability. Very, very powerful. It's that gigantic blue thing that you guys will see me throw on the ground. And for whatever reason here, if I would have went back and done this again, I would have just taken the reduction on wild spirits because it's an offensive, and I had a restoration druid here healing me anyway. So there really wasn't a need for me to really worry about my health there. But at the same time, this was my first time in level 4. I didn't really realize how hard these things would probably hit moving up. So I just wanted to have that extra assurance. But if I were to go back and do it again, I would definitely have taken the reduction for wild spirits. So if you've played a hunter before or anything just in world questing, pulling smartly is normally the way to go, especially at these higher levels. Some of these mobs do hit very, very hard, especially the final boss, as you guys will see. Anytime that you can have, so if you have a pack of these where they're pretty much all bunched up together, obviously you want to go ahead and do that. As always, when you're doing with your pet, making sure that you are hitting that multi-shot, because that's what enacts your cleave with your pet, and that's going to do the most damage off of it. But if you can pull them singularly, or if you'll see it later on in this, some of these guys start hitting harder. So what we do is we kind of go smarter and really utilize the frozen trap and start, so if there's a guard on either side, well, typically I'll freeze one on the right side or left side and just pull them individually just so it doesn't have any issues. Because as one thing you'll notice, right over there to the right of my mini map here. So right here, you'll see some debuffs here. And basically what these debuffs are is periodically you're hunted and certain mobs will come up to fight you. So even if you sit out of combat or periodically, I don't know if it's a time thing or what, but these mobs will come up and hunt you. So if you're getting in and you're pulling too much and all of a sudden those two, they're basically bears in this one, I believe. So if any of those two pop up while you're fighting 2 or 3 other ones, there is the potential to get overrun. And so you just want to make sure that you're making sure you do not have that issue. Here we kind of space out. The druid is obviously casting wrath and trying to help with defense. And I am just basically keeping my my pet healed as much as I possibly can and burning all of my cooldowns. And so now it's just kind of a tank and spank. One thing I really do like to explore in Torghast is especially the dead ends. If I know it's a dead end, I know that typically there is going to be an anima power available, and any of those anima powers that are available for obvious reasons are going to make you stronger, and the stronger you are in Torghast, the more benefits you have. Now, as you will see very easily in this video, it's very easy to get a lot of anima powers, and it's very easy to forget which ones give bonuses to what. So I think there's a time at this that, like, I think I get a 10% damage every time I use Hunter's Mark. Every time I disengage, I get some type of defensive. I think there's another defensive thing for misdirecting or offensive, whatever. And there are times where I completely forget about it. I just get into my rotation. And because those things are normally not part of my rotation, I don't use them every single time. It is something that you're going to have to keep in mind and keep track of, but understand too that even if you miss out on some of them, it's not going to be detrimental. As you'll see in this video, we really don't have too much of a problem clearing this. I do think Torghast is very difficult, especially at the higher levels, to solo. If you are not having one of those classes that, a hunter is very easy to do it. I think a warlock would be good to do as well, as is a protection paladin or any of those ones who have very good tanking and abilities and can heal themselves quickly. I think those guys will do well. It may take a little bit extra time, but I do think it's doable. But like if you're like a mage, that's going to be rough, just because you just don't have anything that can tank the damage. And there's no way, I mean, unless you're very good at kiting, you could probably do it. But even then, these things have a lot of health, and you're talking about wasting a lot of mana to get these things done. I'm sure it's doable, but if you have a healer friend or a tank friend, I recommend that you invite them along. It's going to make this go a little bit smoother. Once you get up to like 3+ members, 3 or more members, the difficulty really ramps up pretty heavy, to the point of unless you have the right combination of people, it makes it very difficult. I'd recommend yourself and a healer if you can find some. So a lot of healers would love to go into Torghast because it's very difficult for them to DPS, especially if the majority of their gear is healing gear. So definitely look in your guild or look for your friends who do that and see if you can't get somebody to join you. Make Torghast much easier for you. All right, so as you see there, we did complete one of the quests there. So every time you see normally the rune guy will come up and he'll give you something about going and saving somebody. You'll find them normally chained up, and they'll fight alongside you for a little while until you find the item that they're looking for. It's normally a gigantic question mark, like it's a very big question mark on the actual mini map. You find it, you do whatever it is. That's one time it's a ring a bell, and when you do that, they will always drop an anima power for you. This one we kind of pulled the layer 1 boss before we got that anima power, but not a huge deal. Like I said, it was the first floor, so it wasn't a big deal. But make sure that you're always remembering once you do that. It's very easy to turn that in and just keep moving, and then because they always have some type of role play that they do before they launch that anima power. So it's easy to skip over that if you're not looking for it. So this being the floor boss, obviously I'm making sure that I try to hit min pet as much as I possibly can, especially once my pet drops below that 50 or 60% mark is when I really start paying attention to it. Other than that, I'm really focused on my rotation and just trying to burn down and put in as much DPS as I possibly can. This guy really only has kind of a frontal thing. One thing that I highly recommend you do is on their very strong abilities, make sure that you are interrupting those. And if it's a red cast ability, some of those can be interrupted with your pet using intimidation, and as well as there is some anima powers that if you use intimidation and you knock them out, you will get a buff to it. Here we had Offer Souls and Kyrion's Blessing. Again, I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure what the 10 soul remnants are good for. I've never really messed with them too much, just because I'm so offense oriented. So this was an easy choice for me. Having a chance to grant my mastery to go up by 35% for 15 seconds. Very good for Beast Mastery Hunter. So that was the easy choice for me. And then we get another one because we beat the floor 1 boss. Here we have a common, a green, and a rare. So you have a common, an uncommon, and a rare. Typically, like I said, I'm very prone to go after offense first, even if it is a common, if the other ones are more defensive oriented, because again, as a Beast Mastery Hunter, majority of the damage is going to my pet, and my pet just heals through it, and a lot of stuff he's even immune to, like whirlwinds and stuff like that. So it doesn't really make much sense for me to need a whole bunch of defensive abilities because I am not the one normally taking damage. Now, if I was the one taking direct damage, obviously making a good mix of offensive and defensive would be very good here, but being that I'm primarily just DPSing while my pet is taking majority of the damage, I typically tend to go toward more offensive spells. All right, so there I did take that aspect of the turtle because honestly, that was the first time I had seen that drop. And what it does is it doubles the length of time for your aspect of the turtle. And so as a Beast Mastery Hunter, you know that when you have aspect of the turtle active, it is 100% reduction in damage, but you also can't do anything offensively. The reason why I chose that, because it was a great defensive and offensive combo, is because when that is active, not only does it double the length of time, but you're also able to do offensive skills while shell of the aspect of the turtle is up. So it makes it very good. I was thinking later on against some bosses or whatever, if there was ever any issues or we were getting low on health, that would be the perfect opportunity for me to be able to heal up if I had to, as well as just kind of mitigate some big type of damage coming in and not really worried about it once every 3 minutes. All right, so here I think I get a little bit close, let the Maw Rat come to it, and knowing that I have that buff with my pet who will instantly kill it and get that damage increase. With all the ones around the side, instead of pulling the ones in the middle, making sure that it smartly AoE down the ones that are padding back and forth around the edge, just making these packs a lot more simpler to handle instead of just trying to pull the entire room. And sometimes those things will drop there. Obviously I saw the Maw Rat and that's what I wanted to get there. If you'll notice there, you'll see that the lock is open elsewhere in this level. So what you really want to make sure is that some of these, they have hidden chests. Some of them have levers that are different combinations of levers that you need to figure out in order to open the chest. It basically unlocks an anima power. Others, if you find one that has 4 chains on it, not just one big chain, there are little bitty blue keys that are laying around in the dungeon all over. And you need 4 of those keys to unlock the chest. So you'll see when you find one, you pick it up and it says a lock is open elsewhere in this level. That is actually one of those 4 chains being removed off of that chest. So you don't need to explore looking for a hidden door that opened up or something else that changed. It's just typically that lock has been taken off of that chest. And this is where, when I talked about earlier about how those random mobs can come up and fight you, this is what those things look like, and they just kind of randomly respawn when you're walking around. So those common ones, they only give you one choice. You just go ahead and take it. And making sure to release all these souls that you see, and making sure that you're also killing, breaking open all of these jars, because they do give you anima as well, so that you can buy other features from the vendor in these Torghast. These rune carved colossus, they do have quite a bit of health. They hit pretty decently, but nothing that you can't overcome by yourself with just min pet. As you can see, that the restoration druid is casting offensive spells that let you know that there's really no danger here, or healing intensive requirements here. This part does get a little bit, it's not terribly hectic. It just, for whatever reason, I'm having trouble getting my pet to target there. And so the druid able to basically heal herself through it. But it was a little bit troublesome there, because I kept trying to get him to go through it. And he was, as always, the biggest problem with Beastmaster, if you guys have seen my strengths and weaknesses, is that pet AI, and that pet AI doesn't always work the way you want it to. So in this room, you'll see you see the levers glowing here on each side. Basically what those are is you'll have stuff that's behind it. Typically this allows you to get an anima power, as well as behind these gates typically are one of those keys that I alluded to earlier to unlock a piece of the chain. So make sure that you guys are opening up those and going in there. So this is one of the tower sentinels. As you'll see, one of these debuffs here does say that there's a powerful tower sentinel somewhere on this floor. This is where he was located at, obviously, if you do beat him. And well, I was actually really surprised with this one, because I really felt like the tower sentinel, especially with them saying there's a powerful one on the floor, that this guy was going to be a little bit of a problem. But as you see, we made pretty short work of him. It wasn't difficult at all. So now we have another side here to open. So we'll go ahead and pull and clear these off, open it up, go over there. And I believe there's a key in this one. You always want to make sure that you're opening up all of these. Sometimes there's some type of bigger mob in there that you can actually, a bigger enemy that's in there that you can kill for anima power, or sometimes there's a key, but typically there is some type of benefit to opening each of these up. And as you see on the ground right there, there is the key. That's what they look like. When she clicks it, there it is. A lock is open somewhere else on this level. And that, like I said, when you find that chest, you should finally have only one chain on it, because you removed the other ones. It's not a hidden area or a door or something else that opens up, so you don't need to be going back through the map to try to locate it. It is those chests. That spray ability is the biggest one that you have to worry about with those guys. You do see like kind of the bubbling on the ground, and they kind of point, and you see like the airy fog or whatever coming after you. Just make sure you're out of that range of it, and you'll be fine. Knowing that there were some pretty big ones here, what I decided to do is I noticed they were fighting in the center, and I thought that maybe the ones on the outside were far enough away that they would not aggro. And so, but I was kind of gearing up and eating just to make sure, in case we did get the entire pack. But I think I am able to pull them individually here. Okay, so able to pull this one as a single pull here, and that just makes it so much easier when you don't have multiple mobs beating down on you. If you can pull them individually, especially these guys that you guys know hit really, really hard, very, very beneficial to pull them off one by one if you can. The other thing is waiting to get that mob back to where you want it to be before you hit kill command, because obviously your pet is going to start attacking once you hit that kill command. The biggest issue with the pet right now is even if you go hit that kill command and then you hit follow, a lot of times the pet does not want to attack that enemy until you hit kill command. It's something that seems to be bugging out. It's always been an issue, but it seems to be very, very prominent in Torghast. And here I decided to try to freeze him. And it works until I send my pet in on the wrong person, and then we have to fight all three. So it was a good strategy, and then I hit tab button wrong. Let me know down in the comments, because I feel like the tabbing through your enemies, there's something wonky about it. It's something weird that's going on, to where you'll tab and be on an enemy, and all of a sudden it'll just tab to a different enemy or a different character. I've noticed it a lot lately, but let me know if you guys are seeing the same thing. Biggest thing with him, so as you'll see there, he does put chains on you. Make sure that you guys are running away from those chains. Break that chain, and then you'll be fine. The good thing about this, like I said, with the pet, is the whirlwind does not affect the pet, that AoE stuff. So as long as you're outside that range, the pet can take that all day. It really doesn't do much damage to them at all. It kind of negates that that ability for them against you. Now, if you're melee, that's a nightmare. But as you can see, he's doing that whirlwind. There's really no damage going on to my pet down here. Always make sure that you're looting everything. Get as much Phantasma as you can, because that is a currency that you do use to buy your upgrades from the vendor in this. I believe you get him on level 3 and level 6 right before the boss fight. You get those opportunities. Again, we find it, and then there is that chest that we were alluded to. As you can see, we opened up all those locks, and there is no chains on that chest, so we are going to be able to open up and get that anima power right after we finish killing these mobs. So open it up, and it is 2 options here. One is aspect of the cheetah is reduced by 30 seconds, and then increase your critical strike chance by 3%. Again, I'm very offense based. I don't really see the need for aspect of cheetah to be reduced by 30 seconds. Yes, you can run faster, but again, this is not a timed thing, so I don't really see the need for the speed increase. There is nothing in these boss fights that is, the rooms are big enough that you need to move that quickly for the most part, that disengage can't help you with. So I would always recommend choosing offensive here, and that's what I do. Go ahead and take that 3% increase the critical strike. That is the best secondary stat that Beast Mastery Hunters have. Then breaking those jars, obviously that does give you Phantasma. Get as much currency as you can, because you can buy extra anima powers. You can buy individual common ones, like increasing your critical strike 3%. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that can be randomly in there. The more you have, the more you get to spend. You can't take it with you, so use it up, and making sure that you're getting the full advantage that you can, which each time you get to use that vendor. So now we're just going to go ahead through and clear the room, because you do just makes it easier. You just never know what the boss is technically going to do. Like I said, this was the first time we had gone in there, and just didn't want to get any extra ads, especially if they did like a fear or something like that. So just making sure that everything was clear. And then I believe we thought maybe there was an anima power in here, which there was, as you can see it hiding behind there. So we wanted to go ahead and clear that, get that full advantage for the fight. All right, so we go in there, and you have negation well, and then forsworn feather. To be honest with you, I didn't see the point of either one of these. For me, like I said, I am very offensive based. Disengage increases your movement speed by 3% permanently, stacking up to 30 times. So that is definitely the one that I would recommend, just because when you do disengage, it does allow you to get out of the movement more. Greatly increasing the power of your jumps. I have not seen a reason or need to jump in this, unless you were wanting to jump over a bed of spikes or something. But even then, it is so easy just to maneuver some of those things. I don't really see the point of the needing for the jump. So I would recommend that you always give something that gives you a speed boost, or something that's going to help you defensively if it cannot help you offensively, or at least utility wise during fights. All right, so here we're going to go ahead and pull the floor 2 boss here on layer 4, the empowered Mossworn Guard. He basically has those same abilities that we talked about before. He's just a lot stronger, has just a lot more health. For the most part, the AoE is what you want to avoid. Being ranged with Beast Mastery, this should not be a problem. Your pet will also not take damage from it. So the only real thing that you really got to make sure that you're watching out for is that kind of cone effect that he does, where he points and then he hits that big cone towards you. That is the biggest one you want to do. And then other than that, he is really just kind of one of those, you just burn him down. Again, he wasn't very difficult. Basically kind of a tank and spank. Just make sure that you're healing your pet whenever that thing does come off a cooldown. He'll get empowered once in a while, and he'll do heavier attacks, but for the most part, your pet should be able to take it with no problem here. All right, so here we got obviously 3 choices here. We got Protective Phantasma, Cultsman Grit, and Cadaverous Cleats. Disengage reduces all damage you take by 50% by 10 seconds. That one's pretty strong if you do need a defensive, if there's no offensive abilities to take. Cultsman Grit was enemies affected by any of your traps deal 25% less damage. And then the Protective Phantasma, Looting Phantasma grants you an absorb shield for 65 per Phantasma, up to a maximum of 25,000. This can also be very good if you need it. I just kind of like the disengage because I felt like I could use it more often. All right, and then when you go up to level 3, so level 3 is actually, there's nothing, floor 3, there's nothing there other than the vendor. you'll get to unlock a whole bunch of stuff, and then this is where you get your opportunity to get some more anima powers. All right, so after you've broken all of the jars, you'll always walk up and get to interact with this vendor. Typically there will be an anima power for you to take. Here we got a choice of an uncommon and 2 commons, and I believe kill shot is the only one that is offensive based, and I think that's the one I take here pretty quickly. And then you get to talk to him, and this is where you get to spend your phantasma. So what I like to do is I like to go through and see which ones are offensively make me better. So I'm looking for anything that's critical strike, mastery, anything that can maybe get me, adding in the scope, I believe, gives you 10% toward hunter's mark. But always just look over them and you'll see different ones that they get you to do. Necrotic Venom is one of my favorites. And also you'll see that there's a purchased anima. So when you purchase that, it actually you can throw it down and it'll actually give you an anima orb that you can use. There's also one that tells you that it'll throw an inanimate object and turn it into anima orb. Make sure before you do that, as you saw my healer did there, she tossed it and it turned the vendor into the anima orb. So if you weren't done dealing with him, you're kind of out of luck there. So make sure that you are aware that you're done with that vendor before you turn him into that anima orb. Otherwise you're going to miss out on you spending your phantasma. Again, going with damage there as we move up to floor 4. So in my opinion, floor 4 is where the damage and everything really starts to uptick. Mobs that hunt you, each level you go up, they increase their health and damage by 10%, I believe. And so they're kind of become more of a pain when they show up. And this is also where we really start realizing how hard things are hitting, because we pull both here. And then I think in the later ones, we realize kind of how hard things are hitting, and we start trying to pull them individually just to make it a little bit easier so that we have less problems. I do recommend clearing the rooms just so that you don't have as many ads. Unless those ads are all the way in the corner, you don't plan on messing with them, like right here. You can just go ahead and pull this guy in the center. The mall rats really aren't going to do a whole lot. They're just kind of annoying and they just kind of run around on their own. So they're not something that you have to necessarily worry about unless you get a whole bunch of them on you. But for the most part, as you'll see there, that wave of suffering cast, that is pretty damage intensive. That one's pretty big. If you can interrupt it, great. The problem is he spam casts it. So you're just going to have to try to burn him down, interrupt him as much as you can, and try to burn him down as quickly as you can. So as you'll see, there is a chest over there, and this one has multiple chains on it and is locked by various runes. It's one of those puzzle ones. So basically what you're going to do is every single time you move a lever, the runes are going to change, and you're just trying to get them, do the right sequence so that all of them unlock. And here is where the bears spawn on us. And we have to fight these just as she figures out the combination there. Like I said, these things will periodically show up and they will hunt you. They do have increased damage each floor you go up to, I do believe. So just make sure that you're always, especially if you're sitting still for too long, make sure that you guys are ready for those. Do not, this is a problem that I've seen. I had a couple guildmates have this issue, thinking that Torghast, with it not being timed, I can go AFK or whatever. Not with these things hunting you. You definitely cannot. Maybe on the lower levels where there is no hunting, but when you get to upper levels and you are being hunted, if you go AFK, these things are going to show up and they're going to come back and you're going to be dead. So make sure that you are paying attention to that. All right, so this level boss is basically the exact same one as previously before. It is an empowered one. It just has more and more health. Making sure that you do use the abilities that you got. Like I said, there's so many of them at times you will forget. I definitely forget to sometimes apply Hunter's Mark, because typically Hunter's Mark doesn't do anything for you offensively, so it's just not part of my normal rotation. So here we basically got a rare and 2 commons. It was basically gain the Scent of Blood talent. So basically what it is if you have the gain, so I already took Scent of Blood on my rotation. So what you do is you'll choose this one and then you'll open up your talents, and if you've already taken it, you get to take a second one on that row. As you see, I already have Scent of Blood. I could have taken Chimera Shot, but I just wanted something passive, and so I just went ahead and did one with the pack. Being lazy, did not want to add another button to my rotation or onto my display, and then I have to take it off for when I left Torghast. Level 5 here, you do have a couple different mobs. You've got the kind of the plant guys. They're not really much of a they're not very difficult to deal with. The one mob that I would wanted to point out to you guys that was a little bit of a pain was this gigantic firefly thing. He was kind of a pain. And so I pull all these hands right here, and you can see him fluttering off to the side there. I don't think I pulled him here. I was worried that I was going to get him in this pack, but we don't. So these are just a whole bunch of gauntlets that you just need to burn down. Again, make sure that you're using your multi-shot. That activates your beast cleave, and that's where your pet's going to do more damage. And so then I ended up trying to pull this guy individually, and he doesn't move. He starts casting, so my pet goes in, and just like I talked about before, when these random mobs will show up, these bears, they show up at the worst possible time for us here. So the healer is getting attacked here. I'm trying to pull off the pet, but the pet does not want to come over there for a minute. You keep wanting to go back to the wasp. And so we're kind of dealing with a little bit of an issues trying to CC or at least get these things under control here. So this was a little bit of a hectic one just because that firefly did not want to move. And so it kind of made it difficult to where we ended up pulling more mobs than I wanted to instead of pulling it individually. And this guy does hit pretty hard. That stinger thing that he does and the stun can be very, very problematic. So just be aware of that. This is where it was a great opportunity for us to use that aspect of the turtle where we don't take any damage, but yet we can still do offense. Really helped out here. Now we've got everything burned down. And so now it is just the bee or firefly. I don't know what that is. Looks more like a bee, obviously, but as you can see, he has a lot of health. He's doing quite a bit of damage. Having to heal my pet as much as possible. The resto druid is definitely trying to help me out here. Because that bee is just doing so much damage. Very slow taking that damage off. So I can't imagine trying to be a marksman hunter or something like that where you're having to fit that damage yourself. It's going to be a long, long day. But as you can see, we could not keep the pet up. He did kill the pet, so I do get off a revive, which is the good thing about Beastmasters. Reviving a pet is not hard, and they go right back into the fight, and they are able to grab aggro again most times. And so we just kind of rinse and repeat doing that. As you can see, though, just a lot of damage going out from this bee. So if you can pull this thing individually, please make sure you do. Otherwise, it could be a little bit of a problem. Obviously, a reward for downing this tough enemy is you do get some very specific animus for it. Pulsing Rot Hive and the Swarm Form. Swarm Form basically allows you to increase your dodge as you are a swarm of flies. And then the Pulsing Rot Hive is basically send out some larvae and they do damage. That is the one I chose. I will tell you though, you got to be a little bit careful because it basically sends out insects, and these insects will go over to whatever enemy they feel like going over to. And I think there is something sometime later in this layer to where the swarm kind of goes out and ends up pulling a different group that was nearby that we did not intend pull. All right, so here with these guys starting to hit hard, especially having this big guy here, I did not want to take on two of them. So I do start freeze trapping the secondary one so that we can burn these down individually. I do recommend that you give that a shot, especially if you're struggling to stay up. As you can see ahead, there is a lot of mobs in the other room getting ready for a gigantic AoE type of pull. Everything's just kind of in the center. The good thing about this though is I was really worried that all these guys would come after us, but for whatever reason, a lot of them seem to stay focused on fighting one another, to where we're basically able to go in there and fight them, and they don't really come after us much. They just kind of sit there, and as you can see, my pet really isn't taking a ton of damage, so they're really not targeting him either. So we were able to burn down a couple of them, get them really low down. It really wasn't bad. This went a lot smoother than I thought it was when I originally saw this pull coming up. And right there, they did kind of focus my pet a little bit there. We did lose him, bring him right back. And then one or two of those things do come up, but as you see, we did down probably half of those enemies there and got another one of their health, majority of their health down pretty substantially, to where it was not hard to finish them off. Make sure that you avoid these, unlike what I did there, and just take half my health. I believe you are going to be able to pull both sides of these. I think I throw a primary guy that's in the center there, and then that way we just get the gauntlets. So these are very easily AoE down. And then we do just kind of bring this guy over, breaking the CC, and then we're able to burn him down very quickly. And right there, for whatever reason, it did pull the other ones. Wasn't sure what happened there. I wasn't sure if that was the bugs, the swarm that I was talking about earlier or not. But I do go ahead and use Wild Spirits on cooldown there. That's the big blue thing, as you see. And this is the part I was talking about where the swarm went off and kind of pulled the other side, as you see, because there was nothing really there for us to hit. And so when we were looking back through it, the druid went back through and realized that I think the swarm was cast, and that's what caused those other ones to get pulled. So we did pull that entire other room. Was a little bit hairy here for a little while, but we do kind of manage to get it under control. Not too bad. And then when we go over there, it's pretty much the whole side is cleared out, so it made it a little bit easier. Definitely not the way we had planned it, though. You just see all these little bugs right here that are following you. Those things can do the swarms. So that right there where you see they turned into an inanimate object, that is actually something that the druid has. It's one of her powers that randomly, when she's attacking something, it will turn it into immediately turn them into an inanimate object, and it kills them immediately. I think she actually gets 3 procs right here. So there's 1, there's 2. Boom, there's the 3rd one, immediately killing these things instantly. Really nice when those things go off. They normally don't go off that well like that, but we got very lucky there and got 3 procs of them, and that made it very easy. So randomly, if you do see something that just randomly turns into a box or a chair or a stake or whatever, that is one of her abilities that she does get. And it is beneficial, especially when it procs at the right time. Here we just play it smart. Go ahead and pull them individually here. I did send in the pet and he obviously did the cleave, which was not great. And then of course those 2 random mobs that do randomly hunt you spawned on us. So this made this a little bit hairier than we wanted it to, but it's just something that you're gonna have to be aware of, making sure that you are aware that this could easily happen. Right there I do use exhilaration, and I can recommend that as Beast Mastery, always use that exhilaration when sometimes you need to save your pet. Even if you don't need the health, saving your pet sometimes can save you in the long run, especially if you have some group of big hard-hitting mobs right there. You do get to replenish it every 3 minutes, especially in Torghast. If you do end up getting where the exhilaration cast time is reduced, it becomes even more beneficial. So if your pet's about to die, don't be afraid to fire off that exhilaration to go ahead and save that pet. Because then once that fight's done, if you really want to, you can wait until exhilaration comes off of cooldown and then redo it again. All right, and same as before, typically is the floor boss. The floor bosses are basically the exact same. They just, each floor, they get more and more health, but their abilities pretty much stay the exact same. Like I said, this guy is basically a tank and spank. Avoid his little AoE, avoid his AoE. If your range, this should be easy. And then just make sure you're staying out of that cone that he does. This is floor 5. So the next one is floor 6. So floor 6 will always be just the vendor and then the final boss of the layer. There it is. We get sticky tar, feline femur, and majestic antler fragment. So this one's very easily wild mark. 25% increased damage from me and my pet. This is a very easy choice here. All right, so you go up to the vendor. Again, make sure that you're going to take every little offensive one that you can use. Again, you cannot take this currency with you, so make sure you spend it. Even if you're buying healing potions or whatever else, they can be helpful as well during these fights, but take everything that is really going to help you during that fight. Here's where I buy 2 of these orbs that I was talking about here. And that allow you to get 2 extra powers. I believe the first one I get here, yeah. So this one right here, Soulforge Embers, is one of the strongest ones that you will get. It's also for Beast Mastery Hunters. It is also the #1 effect that you're using off of your legendary item if you're going after that. So Soulforge Embers, basically you throw a tar trap down and then you fire off a flare into it, and then everything in that takes a whole bunch of fire damage. If you can get this one early on, it's very, very good, especially when you're pulling packs. Unfortunately, this one came at the end, but it's definitely one of the top ones that you're going to be wanting to look for when you're doing these Torghasts. All right, fire off the second one. And so this one basically gave me a benefit for misdirection, which I can give to my pet to get increased damage. I really wasn't worried about getting another 150 currency to use him, because I'd pretty much bought everything I already wanted off of him, so I didn't really see the benefit of taking that. I felt like it was more beneficial to take the other secondary stat that they gave me. All right, so here we are at the final boss. Again, this guy does quite a bit of damage. It's kind of a long fight. Very kind of healing intensive, to be honest with you. I would have hated to try to fight this guy solo. just without the healing. I'm not 100% sure I would have been able to do it. I know I had a friend who is a protection paladin. He was able to do it, but it took him about 10 minutes. So there, as you see, I do the trap there, making sure we put the hunter's mark to get the 10%. And then basically just using all the cooldowns I can on CD. So as you see that thing that he tosses there, you cannot avoid that to my knowledge, and you cannot interrupt it. It is just a random thing that he always does to do ticking damage, just kind of his ability. And you just kind of gotta try to heal through it as best you can. Obviously in the center, as you see, there is acid there. Your pet will not be affected by it. So as long as you're outside of it, it's not going to be a problem. But if you were in melee, this could prove to be pretty difficult. He puts on an absorb shield that I believe you just have to burst through, and then you can then you go back to damaging him. And it really just becomes kind of a race of attrition. Understand too that I'm not greatly geared at this point. I think I'm sitting somewhere around a 165 eye level. I think the druid's somewhere around a 170 eye level, so nothing like overpowering. I think that if we were higher geared and we came in through here, this would be a lot easier. We could burn down these mobs a lot faster, but I was only about 165. Still managed to be able to get it done, but obviously if you do have a higher gear level, this probably will be a little bit easier because these things will melt. I do have exhilaration still if I ever need it to. But she does top me off there, so it's not really needed, and I can just continue to focus DPSing. As you can see, when he hits my pet, he is doing quite a bit of damage. Whenever you do get that chance, though, go ahead and hit that intimidation. That does stun him, and that gives you a couple seconds to where you can really get in some good DPS. As you'll see that frozen trap there, that is actually a part. It's one of the add-ons to that disengage was that whenever you landed, it would randomly fire off a trap. So that's not any reason for me to be putting that trap down there or anything. It's just every single time I disengage, it throws one of the traps. As you see the damage going out, we do have him getting lower, but the damage going out is pretty heavy on the pet. It gets to a point where it almost comes too much, but I do use the exhilaration. Again, make sure that you're not afraid to use it to save the pet, just because I did not want to be having to try to revive the pet with this guy coming after me. The damage going out was already pretty great. These little spikes, things that he throws at you, do quite a bit of damage. You can see they do around 20% of your health, and they can be pretty tiresome. You got to burn through that shield to get him off of that. Once he's not in that shield mode, so here comes that shield again. And when he does that shield is when he starts doing that offense ability, and it does hit pretty hard. Burn through that shield as quickly as you can. Get him out of that phase to where he's only just punching your pet, and this guy will be a little bit easier. But as you see there, even then, could not keep him up. Luckily, he started to do, he wanted to do a chain thing to pull me to him, and it took a little bit of an animation to get there. But he did interrupt me just as I was getting him, so that is when I used the aspect of the turtle. Bring out that pet. He does go into that absorb mode, so it's almost perfect timing for me for his shield. And then I was able to basically absorb that and not take any damage there. Disengage. He's still on me because typically still on me. So because whenever you do revive your pet, typically your pet will lose threat and will not be able to regain it. As you see, we do get a legendary out of this, but that is a successful there. Level 4, floor 6 completed. And that is going to do it for this strategy for Torghast, kind of showing you guys how I did that with the Beast Mastery Hunter. If you guys would like to see me play other characters in Torghast, or like to see me do other high level things or mythics, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys have gotten off the drops. How have you guys been enjoying Torghast, and any strategies and tips that you can give as well. Obviously my strategy may not work for you. There may be something better. The main thing is to just kind of give you an idea of how to go about it, and hoping that you guys are enjoying it or having fun. I think Torghast is a blast. I think it's a very nice addition here. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. As always, if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and turn those notifications on so you know when the next video does go live. And as always, guys, remember that life is a circus. Enjoy that freak show, and I will see you guys next time.